Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest, Nick Anderson, is a veteran musician, content creator, and certified forklift driver. He has proven himself a road dog while honing his skills on and off stages nationwide. Not only are these accomplishments worthy of praise all by themselves, but he is also super cool and handsome and the funniest person I've ever met. These are my thoughts and opinions solely written down by me, and Nick in no way, shape, or form told me to say this. Nick, I'm so pumped to have you on this podcast, and that bio I wrote for you. You didn't write it all.
Of course. Absolutely.
So Nick, I met at the Crowfoot because his band was opening, and I told my boyfriend, I'm like, I need to meet this man. Self-deprecating humor, a whole 9 yards, and I'm going to say it, but you were the best band that night. So,
oh, I appreciate that.
Of course. But before we dive into the coolest shit things you do now, we're going to throw it back to childhood. If you feel comfortable, what was your childhood like? What'd you want to be when you grew up? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I grew up in a conservative religious family, which doesn't reflect on who I am now, but I guess it kind of does in a way. You know, blue collar, lower middle class, just the typical Midwestern family. Got into music at an early age, and then it kind of just has gone from there. Working day jobs and trying to balance the music and getting a steady paycheck. So that was always a challenge.
Nice. And then at what age did you really start? And I have to ask, was there like a shining moment of, oh, this certain band like really opened your eyes? Or because I have my favorite story of like when I listened to like rock and metal for the first time, I'm like, what is this sorcery? But do you have any type of story like that you can remember?
I mean, I always grew up listening to whatever my parents had on the radio. So it could range anything from the, late 90s, early 2000s, top 40, nice. To The Doors, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. My dad played a lot of country like David Allan Coe and Merle Haggard and stuff like that. So it didn't really find my own taste in music until I think it was Linkin Park on MTV.
Nice.
I got home from school, wasn't allowed to watch it with my upbringing and everything, but it was TRL or something like that. And for my parents, they had to vet a lot of music, but they didn't see a parental advisory sticker. So I knew I was in the clear, and it was the first CD I bought with my own money. I remember that I was young. I don't know what grade I was in, young for sure. And it was Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. Played it all the time. I think I probably had to buy another copy just because the CD was worn out. But I would always try to just do what they were doing in videos or performances, air guitar, trying to copy the moves. And about, 11 years old, I got a guitar for Christmas, and it kind of just sparked where I am now.
That's awesome. Do you still have your CDs? Because I just transfer them from box to box, any house I move in, and I refuse to get rid of them. I'm like, I spent so much money and time and waiting when they would be released, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of them.
I think they're somewhere in my mom's house.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure. But I haven't had a car with a CD player in probably 6 years, right? So I don't really use them anymore. So
I don't use them. They are somewhere. No, my mom had called me and she's like, get your shit out of my house. Like all this stuff you have, you need to get rid of it. So it was like going back in time with all the CDs I had.
Hell yeah.
I feel that. So you got this guitar at 11 years old. When did you really start taking music more seriously? And I don't know if you've had the same band your whole career, but when did you kind of take this more seriously and being like, oh, this can actually be a thing?
Yo, that's actually probably the weirdest part of the story of the whole thing.
Oh, let's do it. Yes.
Going to like private school my whole life from kindergarten through high school and being a musician, there was a married couple at the church that wanted to do a praise band for like the youth. And so a few of my friends and I auditioned, and we got in like 7th grade.
Wow.
And ever since then, it was just playing church songs and stuff, the stuff around our church. And it got back to us that we were actually kind of talented. So we started playing at other churches and other events and stuff like that, and eventually formed into us owning our own LCC at like, I don't know, 19, 20.
Wow.
And then traveling across the country, own sound system, our own everything. We were just working together. So.
And this was all For churches? You were traveling around for?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Best place you went to? I gotta know.
Oh man. We spent a couple days in San Diego before going down to Mexico. And I think San Diego is probably La Jolla, but it's probably like the most beautiful area for sure. Florida was really fun. It rained a lot and I'm not a big fan of getting wet, but that was cool other than being super, super hot. But that was also when the crazy flooding was happening. And so like I-75 and like 696 and stuff were like flooded up into the overpasses. So we kind of dodged that bullet. So,
oh my God. How were you getting? I didn't know this was a thing. And I went to Catholic school up until high school. So you're speaking my language, private school, babies here. But how were you getting booked? Was it just like word of mouth of like, oh, Nick and his friend are really great? Or how'd that happen?
So our youth leader, who was married to the woman who put the band together, was like, hey, I have like, kid band, like we'll come play your youth group. And we would do kind of stuff like that. And then it got to the point where we were playing during like the weekly chapel in high school, to the point where we were leaving school to go play other schools' chapels and stuff like that. And it was just word of mouth. And then eventually we got booked on like youth gatherings. And then from there, it's just all those churches that were there and all the kids that were pumped to see us kind of just wanted us to come play their church. So we're like, okay, here you go.
That is awesome. That is such a good story. That is a unique one. Do you still do this or are we away from the churches now?
No.
Okay. So we break off from the churches. We do our own thing. Yeah. How did we decide that you were going to do your own thing? And how did you, I don't know. I feel like it was kind of like starting my business. I'm like, I don't know what to do next, but you had the street cred and you had the experience already traveling.
Yeah. I mean, the band that I'm in now is not this band that I used to be in. We gone through a couple name changes, a couple rebrands. We stopped doing the church thing a few years back and we went under a new name and like a whole marketing, different approach and everything. And then it was kind of great for me because when we were, I think we were maybe in Indiana somewhere. I like woke up for a morning worship event somewhere in Indiana and I realized that I don't believe in any of it. And shortly after, maybe about a year or two after, we kind of branched out of the church and started doing like our own mainstream music and writing and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess it kind of just happened naturally.
Makes sense.
Which was perfect for me, I guess.
And how did we come up with new band? And I have my Ardmore shirt on too, representing.
Beautiful.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Very comfy.
Appreciate it.
True to size. Get it?
Yeah.
How did you come up with Ardmore and what was going through like the rebrand? Because I feel like a lot of people, I at least don't even know like what goes into renaming a band. I mean, is it like a company rebrand is how I relate it to, and I know you have the content background too. So how'd you come up with the name? What's it mean to all of you?
Ardmore is actually the street I grew up on later half of my life. And it's kind of where when I had, growing up, you go through the highs and the lows. And it was one of those things that it was kind of always there that helped shape me. Whether I was close to my family at the time or not, or friends or not, I always had that street. And it was one of those things where I was like, this kind of sounds cool. I haven't seen it before. There's like Ardmore, Oklahoma, and their marching band. So fuck you. I'm the better Ardmore. I'll fight all of you. I don't care.
Come at them.
But I was like looking into it, and in Gaelic, it means higher ground.
Ooh.
And so it was one of those things where it's like, you got to keep your head above water. You got to just keep going. So it kind of fit.
It's a good name, too. It's easy to remember because I couldn't tell you anyone else that was playing that night. And I remembered yours. So not that my memory serves anything or any purpose or any validity, but it's fine. No, it's a good one. And I feel like when bands have like an easy name or one word, it's easier to remember, rolls off the tongue. Good to go.
When it's one word and there's not 1,000 different things when you Google it.
Right.
I mean, we're still probably the second or third page regardless, but it's going to happen.
Right. It will absolutely happen. Now, how did you find your bandmates? And something that I think I've told everyone and their mother, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself in the story, was it your guitar player, bass player had COVID and you had a friend fill in and I would have never known?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you got to tell that story. The ADHD is kicking in hard right now, so I'm so sorry.
Sure. No, I totally get it.
So number one, how do we find our bandmates? And then number two, talk about the night of the Crowfoot and you having to find someone to fill in, because I'm still...
Yeah, for sure. So it's just years of being in the local scene is how I found my musician friends to play with me. My drummer, Robbie, probably one of the best drummers I know. I will go to combat for him every time.
Die on that hill, yes.
He's a Berklee College of Music student. So like he knows his shit.
Yeah.
We met through a mutual friend of ours, Frankie Mistrangelo, who is our guitar player. He's taken some time away. He just had twins.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. So he's the one who kind of helped co-produce and record all of our EP with me. So they were naturally playing with me. And then, we kind of gone through a few different bass players. I never really had a set one until Andrew, but he was sick. And then luckily that night before, I think it was, like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, we were throwing up on Instagram and Facebook and texting everybody we knew. Like, hey, can you come play guitar or play bass? I'll play bass if I have to. And luckily our friend Kenny, who plays in a couple different bands, who's friends with Robbie, stepped up and learned all our songs that night. So it was crazy.
He literally learned them all that night.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm not that great of a musician and they're easy parts to learn. So
your self-deprecating humor all the time. I love it.
It's just the fact. I mean, I'm good at what I know and that's it.
Hey, it's good. It works. So it's all good. No, because my boyfriend and I were not arguing, but I was like, did he say he learned them all at this, like last night? Like he learned them all for this show? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to ask him when we record this podcast because it's been a debate in our household. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, of course.
Questions. I feel I'm a huge concert fiend. I mean, I've been to stupid amount. I'm sure you have me past too, but do you ever get nervous? Or because I've never been on the opposite side, I never will be. I have no musical talent at all. Turn up my volume on my radio so I cannot hear myself sing. I'm so bad. But do you ever still get nervous, or what is it kind of like being on the opposite side of the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I have always been nervous. I think I'll continue to get nervous every time. I have horrible anxiety. So it's one of those things that, you know, a couple hits of something or a few shots will kind of just loosen me up a little bit. It's always the worst until you're in the middle of it, where it's kind of just, I start to relax.
Yes, you're in the groove, feeling good.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about Ardmore, talk to us on what do you have going on? What kind of music you are?
Well, to start with, the easiest question, I guess, is right now I've kind of been writing, been focused on my regular 9 to 5. And so I've just been taking some time to write some new tunes because it was 2020 when we put that EP out. So it's been a few years. But yeah, as far as where we're going, I don't know. It's just whatever makes sense and what comes naturally, I suppose. I don't like forcing things. I don't like making connections or opportunities happen that don't feel right.
For sure.
So whatever makes sense. But yeah, as far as what kind of music we are, I don't know. Genuinely, it's whatever. This EP was kind of pop punky. I have some stuff that's coming, hopefully, maybe that's like that. We have some stuff that's like kind of more hardcore. Some stuff that's a little like thrash metal. So it's one of those things where it's like, whatever we want to put out, we will.
Whatever the vibe is.
Yeah, we could just put out different EPs of different styles of music, or all the songs are different. Who knows?
Okay, that's exciting. And I feel like that makes you a really great band and artist because you never know what you're getting next. You know,
sure.
When you have albums, when you're developing music, and again, I have no musical talent, but it's so much better than, oh, look, I'm listening to another set of 10 songs that were just like the same album that 4 years ago. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, talking about your day job too, because I want to talk about that.
Okay.
How do you balance the two? Because talk to us about your day job. And then do you ever sleep, or you sleep when you're dead? Like, how do we balance the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier now with this current job that I have than in the past. I was in the restaurant business for a really long time.
Yes.
I was a cook, so it was a lot of really long days, late nights, weekends, holidays, stuff like that. The stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to do it.
Mhm.
And people feel bad for you that you're there, even though they're there, whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I show up, work my 8+ hours, whatever I feel like, and then come home, say hi to my daughter, which is my cat. And
What's your cat's name?
Genevieve.
Genevieve. Oh, sweet baby
Yeah.
angel. Okay.
Yeah, she's sleeping right now. I don't even know if she knows I left the bed earlier. So
sweet Genevieve.
Yeah, she's old as shit. It's fine. She's whatever. But yeah, it's just dinner and TV with the girlfriend. And then whenever it's the spark of creativity, I know a lot of people try to force themselves to write. Shit comes out when I do that. I've been rewriting these songs that are, I'm working on now for 4 years longer. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's whenever it comes and inspiration hits is when I'll rewrite everything, feel it. And then I look back like 6 months later and I'm like, this is so bad. Let's rewrite it again. But yeah, that's kind of how I balance it. And when things come up and opportunities, I have to kind of organize it with my other musicians because they're also in other bands.
I always wonder too, because how I think and how I come up with creativity, I can't sit down and just like force it out or anything. And especially, I mean, yes, my day job is not as fun as writing music, but writing resumes and doing all that, like I have to be in the mood, or, hey, I've been feeling great like now, and I'll probably stay up till 10 o'clock and get shit done. But last night I was like, absolutely not. I always wondered when bands were like, oh yeah, I locked myself away and we just recorded this whole album. Like, I'm a huge Dave Grohl fan, and like his audiobook, he's like, yeah, we just like sat down and wrote In Your Honor in a weekend. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Like, no, I couldn't do that. So I'm glad we're right here with that. Now, I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this without sounding like an idiot.
Or sound like an idiot. It's fine. I sound like an idiot all the time.
Oh, sometimes I'm just like, why? It happens. Or the things that spew out of my mouth. I'm like, do you really just say that? Do you really say that, Angela? But okay, we'll ask you this. Favorite show you've ever played and worst one, and why?
Oh man, I played a lot of bad shows.
Okay, we can start with that too.
No, I mean, I don't like to, for a really long time, I never tried to speak negatively about things. Back with like the Christian band, we've played in cornfields. In the middle of nowhere. We played this show. I don't even know if the venue's still there. It's kind of like a safe haven.
Okay.
At the time it was. I don't know now. It was in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, just outside Nashville.
Okay.
And we played for other people in the bands. And there was 2 other bands, so we played for like 6 to 7 people. And it was great. It was whatever. We didn't get paid. Luckily, it was a through to another show that was paying. But yeah, stuff like that. Cornfields, middle of nowhere, playing to nobody. The typical every band does it kind of thing. So, best show I ever played. There's a couple for different reasons. We played this festival called the Big Ticket Festival. Not necessarily any specific denomination, but a big Christian festival. We had played a few years and we had won a spot on the main stage.
Wow.
I mean, it was 4 p.m. on a Friday, but there was still like a few thousand people there. So like playing on like, the big stage with the catwalk and all the, big lights and everything was super, super cool. And then my old band, Beta Camp, we played the Loving Touch in Ferndale.
Oh, I love that venue.
For, I think it was our album release. The only album we put out, but it was our album release and we sold it out. And it was probably like the coolest thing being able to say like, hey, we sold this out, where I've seen bands like Lagwagon and stuff like that play there. So in Tiny Moving Parts, it's super cool to be able to play that kind of stuff where like bands that you love play. So
I don't know why I didn't know it existed. We just saw a red jumpsuit apparatus there, and like a few months ago, and a Facebook ad got me, and it's like tonight. I'm like, I want to go. 6th grade Angela. I have every CD. Like I'm a fiend of them. So, and it was so cool. It's the coolest venue. I totally love. Good vibes, good things. Yeah. That's impressive. You freaking sold that out though, because it's deep. Like you fit a lot of people in that venue. So damn, nice. Okay. What's currently what you're listening to And it's such a loaded question to ask you your top 5 favorite artists, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
I could probably give you top 5, but what I'm listening to now, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
Just being at work, it's helps the day go by.
Yes.
So it's a lot of comedy podcasts, paranormal, stuff like that. I actually listened to this podcast called Pretending to Be People, and they play Delta Green, which is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. And they like role play it, and it's pretty funny. It's super intense, and it's the nerdiest shit that I think I'm into. But yeah, a lot of stuff like that. A lot of my friends have been kind of mellowing out with what they listen to music wise, but I think mine is only getting more intense, I guess, just because it's good for my brain.
Yes.
A lot of like Kubla Khan, Texas, or Terror, these hardcore bands, Comeback Kid, and then Alkaline Trio and stuff like that. So a lot of punk, hardcore is what I'm listening to. Occasional country, but I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm not a country gal either, but you grew up with it. The country was banned from my household, so I feel like that's embedded in you.
Yeah, and this isn't that like pop country bullshit or that like proud to be an American like country bullshit. It's like Tyler Childers or what's his name? The guy, he's got a really deep voice. I'm kicking myself, and my sister's probably going to yell at me for this.
When you remember, we'll just have to record it and have John throw it in there.
For sure.
So your sister doesn't beat you. You know?
But yeah, that's about it. Only the good stuff.
As we wrap this up, because this has been so cool, do you have any shows coming up? Do you have anything we can look forward to? Or if people want to follow along, what platforms are you on? How can we listen? All the things. Nothing
Show-wise yet. Just working on music. Hopefully, maybe by the end of the year. Hopefully. Another EP or so, maybe a couple songs. It's a long time coming for those, so I'm really excited and eager to get that out. But yeah, if you just go on Facebook at We Are Ardmore or Instagram at Ardmore MI, it's pretty much where you'll find us. We don't post a lot, which is your biggest pet peeve with me, is because I don't post anything ever. But
oh my god, I remember I totally yelled at you for that.
Yeah,
now it's coming back.
Yeah, it's okay, it's fine.
I should probably tell the story of how I walked up to you.
Yeah.
Nick goes on self-deprecating humor. You know, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that is my jam, and I am cracking up. I think you did an Angels and Airwaves.
Blink 182.
Was it Blink 182?
Yes.
Okay, we saw like so many bands that weekend, but I was like, who did the cover of it? Phenomenal.
Thank you.
So freaking good. And I go to Dan and I'm like, I need him on my podcast. And every time I tried to find you, I was like, oh, talking to someone, I don't want to be rude. And then I finally saw you and I'm like, you, and I make contact with you and you're like, oh God, what did I do? What happened? And I may have been a few drinks in, I don't know, or had been drinking for the past 5 hours. I don't know. And I did bully you about posting because you guys are so freaking good. Like
thank you.
It's very rarely do you find an opening band that's actually like worth the time or just like, you know, there, but way better. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this on this podcast, but you were better than the other ones. So
that's fine. I'll say it too.
Just saying.
I'll say it.
You were. Facts.
Yeah.
We all agreed. Our whole group agreed. So whatever. It's what it is. Die on that hill right now. But it's so interesting in the opportunities. And I love that you told the story and you had the Hungarian flag, which my boyfriend's Hungarian. And I know you guys talked about that, but he's like, oh, I think he's Hungarian. Look, he's got the flag. I'm like, I don't know. You talk to him about it. I'm not going to go ask him. So I already bullied him enough here. And I apologize for my way I approached you. But hey, you came on. I didn't scare you too bad, right?
No, I mean, it's not. It wasn't as bad as the visibly drunk woman I made fun of on stage. So
she was bad.
Yeah, she was very bad.
And that was early in the night.
Yeah. That was 8:00. So that was cool.
And I think we chatted at like 10. It was later.
Yeah, it was way later.
I had some time.
Yeah,
I had some time, but
it's okay.
So last question I have for you: what advice do you have for listeners?
Ah, shit.
There's no right answer to it. Whatever you're feeling.
You'd say that. Ultimately, no matter what you do or what you want to do, go for it. I have been lucky enough. I've been kind of gradually pushed into like what I want to do. Some people are really fucking scared or anxious to just make the jump. And I say, if there's ever something you want to learn to do or have been willing to learn to do, go do it. Don't be afraid of failure. I have failed thousands and thousands and thousands of times before I got to where I am, which is still nowhere, but that's fine. We'll get to that.
We're all figuring it out.
It comes down to just do it. Who cares? Who cares what you are worried about? There's something out there for everybody.
There is. And you're still going to fail. Nothing's perfect. I mean, I could tell lots of those stories, and with my prematurely gray hair and wrinkles.
Yeah.
Nick, this was so much fun. I'm so happy I didn't scare you away and you agreed to be on the podcast.
Of course.
And those of you listening, you want to check Nick out, head to the show notes for his social media and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.